There are moments when silence grows so loud it drowns out every voice but your own. You sit there, motionless, while your mind refuses to rest. The room is still, yet your thoughts sprint in circles. Conversations from last week. Regrets from last year. Fantasies about tomorrow. Fears that have not even happened yet. It does not matter where you are, your mind builds its own world and traps you inside it. Nietzsche once wrote, "Thoughts are the shadows of our feelings, always darker, emptier, and simpler." But what happens when you start mistaking the shadow for the real thing? When overthinking becomes your default response to every uncertainty, every pause, every quiet pain. This is for the ones who live in their heads because the outside world has never felt safe. For those who replay conversations endlessly, editing their personality in real time. For those who feel exhausted even after doing nothing. Brilliant, burnt-out minds who are thinking themselves to death. You are here because you are tired of the loop. You are ready for something to shift, even if just a little. So let us do this differently. Let us stop trying to escape your mind, and instead understand why it refuses to let go. Because what you are about to realize will not only ease your thoughts, it may change your entire relationship with yourself. At some point in your life, you learned that staying in your head kept you safe. Maybe you lived in a home where emotions were not welcome. Maybe mistakes brought punishment. Maybe the world simply moved too fast, and your mind became the only place you could slow it down. Overthinking is not weakness. It is protection. It is the shield your brain built when life never gave you the tools to feel safe being spontaneous. You analyze every word before you speak it. You rehearse every conversation before it begins. You imagine every outcome before you act. Not because you are indecisive, but because your body once learned that preparation was the only way to avoid pain. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But here lies the secret your overthinking hides. You have lost your why. You think so much because you are afraid to feel. Afraid that if you stop analyzing, the feelings you buried for years will finally catch up. And deep down you know they will. But those feelings are not here to destroy you. They are here to free you. Trace the pattern of your thoughts and you will notice something. Most of your overthinking is not about the present. It is about protection. It is about controlling what cannot be controlled, to avoid what you fear. Think about it. You do not replay the conversation because it mattered. You replay it because you are terrified it meant something bad. You do not analyze the choice because it is complex. You analyze it because you are scared of being blamed. You do not hesitate because you are weak. You hesitate because somewhere in your body lives the memory of punishment. Overthinking is the echo of a past you have not yet made peace with. But it does more than guard you from the past. It tries to control the future. Your brain becomes a time traveler, scanning every scenario to prevent hurt. And the more you try to control tomorrow, the more anxious you become today. Nietzsche warned, "There is more wisdom in your body than in your deepest philosophy." But overthinkers do not live in their bodies. They live in their theories. They believe safety is found in certainty, that if they think long enough, peace will arrive. But peace is not at the end of a mental maze. It lives in the courage to stop running in circles. Why do some people seem to think less and live more? It is not because they are careless. It is because they have accepted one terrifying truth. You cannot think your way out of fear. You cannot analyze love into safety. You cannot prepare your way into worthiness. And yet you keep trying. Because control feels like survival. But when control becomes your coping mechanism, spontaneity becomes your enemy. You stop laughing without checking if it is appropriate. You stop speaking unless your words are polished. You stop deciding unless you imagine every possible outcome. And without realizing it, you stop living. You become a prisoner in your own brilliance. trapped not by limitation but by fear of being wrong. Nietzsche would call this the death of the will to power, the drive to expand, to actualize, to live through experience. Overthinking kills that drive. It replaces momentum with loops. It replaces becoming with rehearsing. But you were never meant to rehearse your life. You were meant to live it even when it hurts. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Your overthinking is that unconscious force. But you are older now. You have tools. You have awareness. And maybe you are ready to offer your mind something new. Not shame. Not judgment. But compassion. Because your mind is not the villain. It is the child who never learned how to trust. And the only way to heal that child is to finally stop fighting it. Not every thought needs an answer. Not every feeling needs a plan. Sometimes the most intelligent act is to pause. Nietzsche once wrote, "To live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." And perhaps that is the invitation. Not to erase your thoughts, but to find meaning in them. To trace your fears to their roots. To challenge the lie that you must earn your worth through perfection. To notice the loop without obeying it. Awareness is not the end, it is the beginning. The beginning of living from truth instead of fear. The beginning of feeling instead of only thinking. The beginning of reclaiming the you that existed before fear took over. So let me leave you with this question. If overthinking has been your shield, what wound has it been protecting? And what if, just for a moment, you did not need protection at all? What if you were already safe, right here, right now, to simply exist? There is a mental loop you know too well. You are faced with a choice. At first, you feel the instinct rise, but you pause. You begin reviewing every possible outcome. You imagine what others will think. You replay the last time something similar went wrong. Suddenly, you are not thinking to decide. You are thinking to delay. You tell yourself one more moment of reflection will bring peace. But peace never comes. Because your mind is not searching for clarity. It is searching for certainty. And certainty is an illusion. Nietzsche once said, "Faith means not wanting to know what is true." In the same way, overthinking is the refusal to confront reality as it is. You do not overthink because you are confused. You overthink because you are afraid of responsibility, afraid that a choice will bring pain, yours or someone else's. Here is the truth you avoid. Avoiding pain is not the same as avoiding harm. Avoiding discomfort is not the same as protecting yourself. Your thoughts are clever. They create elaborate stories. They predict betrayal before it happens. They rehearse rejection before it arrives. They replay shame before anyone else has spoken. But thoughts are not facts. They are only possibilities wearing the mask of certainty. And when you confuse the two, you start living in a world that does not exist. You decline opportunities not because they are wrong, but because the imagined failure feels too vivid. You pull back from people not because they hurt you, but because your brain already pictured the wound. You stop before you start not because it is impossible, but because the story in your head insists you will regret it. And so your life shrinks, not because of reality but because of perception. Nietzsche warned, "The snake which cannot cast its skin has to die." For the overthinker, the skin you must shed is the false safety of endless analysis. Because what you call carefulness is often just fear rehearsed in detail. Overthinking is seductive. It gives you the illusion of control. It makes you believe you are being wise. It whispers that preparation is the same as progress. But thinking is not doing. Reflection is not repair. Analysis is not action. You tell yourself you are preparing, but you are really postponing. You journal endlessly but never begin. You research obsessively but never step forward. You reflect daily but never change. And slowly you mistake the act of thinking for the act of becoming. Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." You cannot think your way into growth. You must risk the mess of action. You must embrace the vulnerability of imperfection. You must step into the unknown of presence. Overthinking keeps you behind glass, watching life like an audience. But real growth only begins when you are willing to break that glass. To risk being wrong. To risk being misunderstood. To risk being alive. So let us pause here. Ask yourself honestly, am I really searching for truth or am I bargaining for certainty? Am I reflecting or am I rehearsing fear? Am I preparing or am I postponing my life until it feels safe? Nietzsche believed, no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. The price of owning yourself is risk. The price of authenticity is stepping forward without guarantees. The price of peace is refusing to confuse thinking with living. And perhaps that is where your loop begins to break. Not when you finally find the perfect thought, but when you dare to move before you are ready, because clarity does not come from thinking harder. It comes from acting truer. Perfection is a word that looks noble but feels heavy. It whispers that if you just try harder, prepare more, polish every detail, you will finally be safe. Safe from rejection. Safe from failure. Safe from shame. But perfection is not safety. It is another prison disguised as protection. You know the cycle. You start a project, but instead of joy you feel tension. You edit before you even finish. You pause because something is not quite right. You rehearse endlessly before speaking. You rewrite messages 10 times before sending. And the more you chase flawless, the less you create. The more you demand perfect, the less alive you feel. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But perfectionism does not allow that. Perfectionism demands that you become who others will approve of. It tells you that authenticity is too messy, too vulnerable, too risky. So you hide your real self under layers of performance, until you no longer remember what you actually wanted. Nietzsche warned, every profound spirit needs a mask. And perfectionism is the most polished mask of all. It wins you applause, but it robs you of intimacy. People admire the mask, not the person. They praise the shine, but they never see the cracks that tell your real story. And inside, you feel emptier with each round of applause. Perfectionism is not ambition, it is fear. It is the fear of being ordinary. The fear of being seen as not enough. The fear that without flawlessness you will be abandoned. So you polish yourself into invisibility, and while others call you successful, you secretly feel hollow. You confuse excellence with worth. You confuse achievement with identity. You confuse applause with love. But worth does not live in flawless execution. Worth lives in flawed existence. In the courage to show up even when it is not polished. In the honesty to admit when you are tired. In the humanity of saying, "This is me and that is enough." Nietzsche once said, "Become who you are." He did not say become perfect. He did not say become flawless. He said become. And becoming means being in process, not in performance. Think of all the moments you postponed life because you were not ready. The outfit you did not wear because it was not perfect. The idea you never shared because it might sound foolish. The love you pushed away because you feared being judged. Perfection did not protect you. It prevented you. Emotional intelligence invites us to ask, what do I lose when I demand perfection? The answer is always the same. You lose connection. You lose spontaneity. You lose peace. You lose yourself. Jung said, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration. Perfectionism is the opposite of integration. It is cutting off the messy, the flawed, the uncertain. It is presenting a sanitized self and hiding the rest. But integration means showing up as a full human, light and shadow, grace and flaw, strength and weakness together. So pause and reflect. Are you polishing yourself to be loved? Are you exhausting yourself to be accepted? Are you hiding behind the illusion of perfection because you fear the truth of being human? So remember this. You were never meant to be flawless. You were meant to be whole. Nietzsche observed, "He who despises himself still respects himself as one who despises." Even in your self-criticism there is dignity. But true dignity is found not in despising flaws, but in embracing them. Because your imperfections are not mistakes. They are the fingerprints of your existence. Perfection is not freedom. It is slavery to an audience that will never applaud enough. The real liberation comes when you stop editing your soul and start expressing it. When you stop rehearsing your worth and start living it. So here is the final question of this chapter. What would your life look like if you stopped polishing and started participating? What would it feel like to be fully seen even with the cracks? And what if those cracks were not proof of your failure, but the very openings through which real love could finally enter? You have a list of things to do. The tasks are simple enough. Reply to the message. Start the project. Make the call. And yet hours pass. You scroll. You pace. You plan. But nothing gets done. You tell yourself you are preparing. You tell yourself you are waiting for the right moment. But beneath that explanation lies a harder truth. You are hiding. Not from the task, but from the emotions that come with it. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Procrastination is not laziness. It is the unconscious inaction. It is fear disguised as delay. It is avoidance dressed up as preparation. Think about it. You do not avoid replying to the message because it is difficult. You avoid it because you fear rejection. You do not put off the project because it is impossible. You put it off because the thought of failure feels unbearable. You do not delay the call because you forgot. You delay it because you are afraid of what you might hear. Nietzsche wrote, "Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. Your illusion is that by waiting, you will feel ready. That one day courage will arrive fully formed. But readiness is not found in waiting. It is created by moving. Avoidance feels safe in the moment. You tell yourself tomorrow will be easier. But tomorrow becomes another tomorrow. And slowly you begin to live in the cycle of almost. Almost beginning. Almost trying. Almost living. The tragedy is that you are not lazy. You are terrified. Terrified of failing. Terrified of succeeding. Terrified of being judged. So you stay in the one place that feels both alive and lifeless, your head. Nietzsche said, "No price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." Owning yourself means confronting the fears you have been avoiding. It means admitting that procrastination is not about time. It is about truth. The truth that you doubt your worth. The truth that you fear imperfection. The truth that doing will expose you in ways thinking never can. But thinking does not build bridges. It does not write books. It does not heal relationships. It does not move you forward. Action does. And action, unlike thought, requires risk. Risk of rejection. Risk of failure. Risk of discovery. Carl Jung believed, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another." There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. This means your path will never feel perfect. Your timing will never feel flawless. Your readiness will never be complete. But life is not lived in readiness. It is lived in movement. Ask yourself this. How many dreams have you postponed because you were waiting for the right time? How many chances have you let pass because you feared imperfection? How many lives have you rehearsed in your mind but never touched with your hands? And what has that waiting really given you? Avoidance may keep you comfortable, but it also keeps you empty. It shields you from failure, but it also steals your victories. It silences judgment, but it also silences joy. It protects you from risk, but it also protects you from life. Nietzsche warned, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Perhaps the reason you are stuck is because you have lost your why. You are no longer moving towards something meaningful. You are only moving away from something frightening. And escape is not the same as purpose. So here is the challenge. Stop waiting for courage to appear. Act first and let courage catch up. Stop waiting for certainty. Move even with fear still sitting on your shoulder. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. This moment is already enough. Because in the end, life does not reward the one who waits for readiness. It rewards the one who begins. And if you are willing to begin, clumsy, flawed, uncertain, you will finally learn what thinking alone could never teach you. That freedom does not live in avoidance. It lives in action. You have spent years inside your mind, analyzing, rehearsing, preparing. But at some point you begin to notice the cost. Your life is not measured by how many thoughts you have had. It is measured by how fully you have lived. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents." But this is not just about parents. It is about you. The greatest tragedy of any life is the unlived part of it. The chapters you never dared to write. The words you never dared to speak. The love you never dared to receive. Overthinking promised you safety. It told you that if you stayed alert enough, you could avoid pain. But pain came anyway. Because pain is not the enemy of life. It is part of it, and the more you tried to escape pain, the more you escaped living. Nietzsche observed, "To live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." You have survived by thinking, by controlling, by perfecting. But survival is not enough anymore. You want more than to survive. You want to live. Living means stepping into uncertainty without a script. It means allowing mistakes to happen without shame. It means letting joy arrive without apology. It means choosing connection over control. And yes, it means risking heartbreak. But heartbreak is proof you were alive enough to care. For years, you confused intelligence with protection. You thought wisdom meant avoiding the mess. But real wisdom is the opposite. It is the courage to enter the mess and find meaning inside it. It is the decision to stop rehearsing and start becoming. Nietzsche once wrote, "No artist tolerates reality. But perhaps the art of life is to stop tolerating rehearsed reality and start creating authentic reality. Not the polished version you present to the world. Not the flawless story you tell yourself at night. But the raw, imperfect, unedited truth of your existence." So ask yourself, what would it look like to live without waiting? To laugh without checking if it is appropriate? To speak without editing every word? To act without predicting every outcome? To love without bargaining for safety? Carl Jung reminded us, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration. Integration means you do not need to kill your mind to live your life. You only need to stop letting it run the show. Your thoughts are valuable. Your reflections are wise. But they are tools, not prisons. They are guides, not gods. The invitation is simple, though never easy. Feel without apologizing. Act without rehearsing. Love without bargaining. Live without waiting. If you are waiting for permission, this is it. If you are waiting for certainty, you will wait forever. If you are waiting to be perfect, you will never begin. But if you are willing to be human, flawed, fragile, and alive, you will finally step into the life that has been waiting for you all along. Nietzsche wrote, "Become who you are." This is not a command to become perfect. It is an invitation to become real, to embrace the contradictions, to honor the wounds, to celebrate the ordinary moments that make life extraordinary. So here is where the thinking ends, and the living begins. Not tomorrow, not when you are ready. Now.